Students, welcome to the subject software engineering. We are in chapter number 11. Okay, and today's topic is object constraint language. In short, OCL. Point number 1. The wide variety of diagrams available as a part of UML, that is Unified Modeling Language, provide a designer with rich set of representational forms for the design model. Students, you have studied Unified Modeling Language. So, Unified Modeling Language is a language which will help the software developer or engineer to describe the system or software he is developing in diagrammatic form. But the diagrams available as a part of UML provide designer rich set of representational form of design model. Point number 2. But graphical representation are not enough. Students, UML are diagrammatic representation, but only that much is not sufficient. Point number 3. The designer needs a mechanism for explicitly and formally representing information that constrains some elements of the design model. Students, when you are developing a system, there are certain constraints. To express those constraints, so designer needs a mechanism which will help to explicitly and formally represent such information related to constraints on some elements of the design model. Point number 4. Also, if we describe constraints in natural language such as English, it leads to inconsistency and ambiguity. Students, we are well versed with English language, which is a natural language for most of the people. But if you try to express constraints in English language, as you know, it will lead to inconsistency and ambiguity because most of the English words have got different meaning. Point number 5. For this reason, a more formal language, one that draws on set theory and formal specification languages but has somewhat less mathematical syntax of programming language seems to be appropriate. Students, we need one formal language, which will have firm basis on the set theory, that is the mathematical part, as well as formal specification language, that has some mathematical syntax but less of programming language, because programming language has got different syntax and it is very difficult to understand. But at the same time, we need formal specification which will note down the things correctly. So such new language is required. Point number 6. The object constraint language OCL complements UML by allowing a software engineer to use a formal grammar and syntax to construct unambiguous statements about various design model elements. For example, classes and objects, events, messages and interfaces. Students, the object constraint language helps unified modeling language whereby they allow software engineer to use formal grammar and syntax to construct unambiguous statements about various design model elements such as classes, objects, events, messages and interfaces. So this is a new language where we can express constraints. Point number 7. The simplest object constraint language statements are constructed in four parts. One, a context that defines the limited situation in which statements are valid. So, the four parts in which OCL can be constructed are context. Okay. Second part is property. A property that represents some characteristics of the context. For example, if the context is class, a property might be an attribute. So property is something that gives more detail about particular object. Third, okay, is an operation. For example, arithmetic or set oriented that will help and manipulate or qualify a property. And fourth one, keywords. For example, if, then, else, and, or, not. So such certain keywords should also be part of such language. So OCL has got certain keywords that are used to specify conditional expressions. So students, today we have tried to study object constraint language. More details regarding this is beyond the scope. You require to study it in different way. As far as our topic is concerned, so much details are sufficient. So they will mostly ask you short notes on this related to some 2 marks or 5 marks. This much is sufficient, and we'll stop here for the day. The new topic we'll take up in the next class. Thank you.